It was the way you got them to go and be good about it, the way you saw them into the chair sitting at the end of the Green Mile with their sanity intact. I couldn't keep all of those promises, of course, but I kept the one I made to Delacroix. As for the Frenchman himself, there had been hell to pay. The bad un had hurt Delacroix, hurt him plenty. Oh, I know what he did, all right. But no one deserved what happened to Edward Delacroix when he fell into old Sparky's savage embrace. A smell of peppermint. And something else. Something back inside that hole. I took a pen out of my breast pocket with my right hand, still holding onto the beam with my left, not worried anymore about brutal inadvertently tickling my sensitive knees. I unscrewed the pen's cap one-handed, then poked the nib in and teased something out. It was a tiny splinter of wood which had been tinted a bright yellow, and I heard Delacroix's voice again, so clearly this time that his ghost might have been lurking in that room with us, the one where William Wharton spent so much of his time. Hey, you guys. The voice said, this time the laughing, amazed voice of a man who has forgotten, at least for a little while, where he is and what awaits him. Come and see what Mr. Jingles can do. Christ, I whispered. I felt as if the wind had been knocked out of me. You found another one, didn't you? Brutal asked. I found 3 or 4. I came down and shone the light on his big, outstretched palm. Several splinters of wood were scattered there, like jackstraws for elves. 2 were yellow, like the one I had found. 1 was green and 1 was red. They hadn't been painted but colored, with wax Crayola crayons. Oh, boy, I said in a low, shaky voice. Oh, hey. It's pieces of that spool, isn't it? But why? Why up there? When I was a kid I wasn't big like I am now, Brutal said. I got most of my growth between 15 and 17. Until then I was a shrimp. And when I went off to school the first time, I felt as small as as small as a mouse, I guess you'd say. I was scared to death. So you know what I did? I shook my head. Outside, the wind gusted again. In the angles formed by the beams, cobwebs shook in feathery drafts, like rotted lace. Never had I been in a place that felt so nakedly haunted, and it was right then, as we stood there looking down at the splintered remains of the spool which had caused so much trouble, that my head began to know what my heart had understood ever since John Coffey had walked the Green Mile: I couldn't do this job much longer. Depression, or no depression, I couldn't watch many more men walk through my office to their deaths. Even one more might be too many. I asked my mother for one of her hankies, Brutal said. So when I felt weepy and small, I could sneak it out and smell her perfume and not feel so bad. You think, what? That mouse chewed off some of that colored spool to remember Delacroix by? That a mouse? He looked up. I thought for a moment I saw tears in his eyes, but I guess I was probably wrong about that. I ain't saying nothing, Paul. But I found them up there, and I smelled peppermint, same as you know you did. And I can't do this no more. I won't do this no more. Seeing one more man in that chair just about kill me. I'm going to put in for a transfer to Boys Correctional on Monday. If I get it before the next one, that's fine. If I don't, I'll resign and go back to farming. What did you ever farm, besides rocks? It don't matter. I know it doesn't, I said. I think I'll put in with you. He looked at me close, making sure I wasn't just having some sport with him, then nodded as if it was a settled thing. The wind gusted again, strong enough this time to make the beams creak and settle, and we both looked around uneasily at the padded walls. I think for a moment we could hear William Wharton, not Billy the Kid, not him, he had been Wild Bill to us from his first day on the block, screaming and laughing, telling us we were going to be damned glad to be rid of him, telling us we would never forget him. About those things he was right. As for what Brutal and I agreed on that night in the restraint room, it turned out just that way. It was almost as if we had taken a solemn oath on those tiny bits of colored wood. Neither of us ever took part in another execution,